Welcome to the 2023 Top 10 Board Game Challenge. Okay, so how this works is, well, if you saw my previous video on how to play more games, you'll know the whole point of that was there's just a ridiculous amount of board games being released every year. So I figure maybe I can just have a top 10 of all hidden gems that I would be proud to announce as like a top 10 of the year. And you'll see a bunch of games right now on the screen going by, I think. I record the audio before I do any of the video stuff, so I hope that's the case. But anyway, on Reddit, I saw a thread where somebody took all the top 10s from like different YouTubers or people who do top 10 lists and compiled them and then ranked them. And then there's a comprehensive top everything list of every single game mentioned in any of those lists. So I thought, what if I could make a top 10 where no game of games that weren't mentioned in any of those lists, right? And the answer is no, I could not do that. It is too hard. The link will be in the description below, so you can check out the list for yourself. But the list got real weird. There's different criteria for each of these top 10 lists. I'm sure some of these lists had to be top 10 games they played in 2023 or they learned in 2023, because the list included some games like Raw, which came out in 1999. Now, a new version did come out in 2023, but it's the exact same game. So it's definitely not a 2023 game. Others had 2022 games that are released in 2024, stuff like that. I'm just going by what it says on Board Game Geek. So, yeah, that's essentially my criteria. So I couldn't do all. They covered a ton of games. I think some people put some games on there just to be a little different, like, hey, look at this game I know about. I'm not in the head of all those people. The point is, I can do it with a top 100. The top 100, that's a lot of games. So can I make a top 10 list outside of it's actually a top 102 because there was like a 8-way tie for 96th, something like that. No, the math doesn't add up, but I should have done more research before I did this, but I'm committed to doing this all in one take. Cuts down on the editing. You get all my fumbles and other things. I'm sure that's entertaining. Yeah. So, anyway, without further ado, here is my top 10 games of 2023 outside of the top 100 of all the influencers challenge list. Yes. So, before I get into this, the fun thing here is I've actually played all these games. I played most of the games in the top 100 with a friend of mine, as you probably know, but I've actually played these 10 games I'm going to recommend except for one of them. So try to guess which one. I'm sure you'll have fun doing that. All right, so the first game, and I am going to rank them 10 to 1, although that's not a real ranking. There's just 10 games. Game number 10 is Daybreak. Daybreak is a cooperative game about saving the world, and each turn you play your hand of cards. Each card has symbols in the upper right. If you played Innovation or any game with splaying, this will be familiar, but you can play it in front and then over the card that's there, and then all the symbols behind it will contribute to the card that you just played, or you can put it behind cards and then the card will disappear, like the action on the card, but the symbols will now contribute to the card that was there before. That's pretty simple, and it's fast, it's fun, it's interesting. This may be the only game I can think of where the time on the box is overstated, at least in my opinion. I think once you know the game, maybe for the first game it's kind of like it could be up to 2 hours, whatever, but once you know the game, it gets way faster. People play simultaneously. They generally don't need to know too much. Well, anyway. And so that's Daybreak. Now, I also want to point out that for these, I'm probably not going to get too much into how to play the game, even though I just kind of did with Daybreak. I want to do just a quick summary, and then you can look up the rest if you're interested yourself. So, number 9, Search for Lost Species. From the people who made Search for Planet X, this is pretty much the exact same game. I like it a little better because it's way more open. In Planet X, like half the board is cut off at any given time, and you can't search that area. You have to, but in this one, you can kind of go around and just at your own pace. Just straight up deduction. Everyone has their phone to get the analysis. If you like deduction, you like this game. Easy. If you don't like deduction, you're not going to like this game. Very simple. Number 8, Pirates of Maracaibo. This is a game where you just basically go left to right. You can't go back, and you get stuff along the way. If you go fast, you get to the end first, but then you have less action. The other people can take more time getting there and doing more stuff. Well, it's been a while since I played this. Yeah, it's one of those games, but it's very well done. There's rarely a lack of options. There's rarely a lack of interesting choices each time. You might even have a straightforward plan, but how you get there can affect things. And there's also interactions on getting to places before people. Worth checking out if you like that style of game. Number 7 is Amalfi Renaissance. And this game I think is really interesting. I'm surprised it isn't more popular, although I do have to try out some of the roles. The system is super unique where you have ships which count as your workers and as your resources. So if you get like 3 wood, then it's represented by one of your ships. And if you don't have a ship, because you've been later in the turn, you keep using your workers, then you can't get that wood. So you have to plan accordingly for that. Plus, there's a bunch of cards. I kind of feel like it's like Agricola. If the cards are, they can expand it with more cards, and if the cards are unique and you have a draft at the start, the game is going to be worth playing over and over and over again. If you don't do that, then the game will be kind of straightforward after that. But I think it's a great game worth checking out if you like worker placement, and it's got that unique resource system. Next is Nekojima. Now, I find on these top 10 lists, there's not usually a lot of love for party games. That's Not a Hat, I think, made it into top 100, but no, it didn't. I don't think there's any party games in the top 100. Granted, 2023 wasn't the best year for party games as well, so there is that. But Nekojima is fun. You roll dice, that's the area you got to play in, and you stack a telephone pole either on the ground or on a telephone pole existing there. You put the second pole in another region, and then on the wire that hangs between, you hang a cat. And if the cat or wires touch other cats or wires, you lose. Or if the whole thing falls down, you lose, and everybody else wins. That's the whole game. It's super simple, but it's fun, and I like cats. The next game, 1, 2, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. That was number 6. This is number 5. Number 5, Perspectives. If you missed this one, check it out, especially if you like puzzle games. This is a solve the mystery game, and it has a unique system where it encourages interaction, talking, where there's a bunch of cards which kind of show the scene. If you had all the cards yourself, you kind of see all the angles and stuff. But these cards are divvied out, so everyone has their hand, and each hand is they're random, so but you can discuss what's on your card and kind of explain it, but you can't show it. And it's cool because then other people kind of ask you like, oh, what about this detail that's in mine? Is it on yours too? Kind of thing. And you do get to show one card, but ultimately I love the way it encourages people looking at things. It's kind of like if you had a bunch of detectives working on the case, you all have walkie-talkies, and you're all in different areas explaining like what you see, and if there's a clue on one card that relates to your card, then you can kind of see if that matches up. Great game. If you like that style of game, like solving mysteries, then definitely check it out with a group. Next game, number 4, Aurum. And this game is easy to miss if you don't like trick takers. And if you don't like trick takers, well, you're not going to like this game. But it is a don't follow team game. Meaning, if someone plays a red card, then the next person cannot follow it. They must play anything but a red card. And then if they play a blue card, say, the next person has to play something that's not red or blue, and so on. So if you're not able to play, your team loses. There's more complications than that, but in general. So a lot of the strategy, especially later in the hand, comes to trying, if your team's starting, then you want to try to get that fourth person to not be able to play, and then your team wins. And there's a lot of unique, interesting actions involving that. There's also gold and stuff. That's why it's called Aurum, but look more into it if that sounded interesting to you. Number 3, Divinity Original Sin, the board game. This is coming off of a lot of board games that are surprising to me because they're based on single-player IP games, usually I played on the PC, like on Steam and other things, like console, video games. So you can play this multiplayer, but it's really a single-player RPG for the most part. Frostpunk, Slay the Spire, The Witcher, these are all games similar, where they're solo experiences. So I feel like the board game wouldn't be such an interesting experience because the single-player game is so good. So what, like in there you have the power of a computer. You know, you're not restricted by cards. But this game's really good. It This one's multiplayer though. You can play with friends, and it's your basic dungeon crawl, fight bosses, fight monsters, that kind of thing. But there's so much interesting stuff you can do, either cooperative or with your own stuff, involving combinations and different like effects and things. So it really keeps it fresh. There's a lot of interesting things to try throughout the game, and I think that the production is excellent if you just look at it. So I think they did a really good game. Yeah, they did a really good game with this, and worth checking out if you're interested at all in that style of game. The number 2 game I have on this list is Pass. Pass is a shedding game, kind of like if you played Scout or Teach You or any of those games. It's another one of those. It's just get rid of your cards first. But the interesting thing here is if you pass, you get a pass token, and that token helps improve your hand. So if your hand's not very good, or if it just needs a little boost, you can pass, and then you'll start collecting these tokens. But if you pass too much, then other people will go out before you, and also people notice when you're passing, and they can see you're powering up. So there's this interesting balance of trying to just get that right time to make your move, and before other people power up too much. So I thought it was a really cool game. And the last one is very similar to Pass, but it's called Of What's Left. I'm a little biased on this one because I know the designer, but the game is excellent. The shedding game thing is just kind of go out first for most games, and thus, if you have just a killer hand, there's no strategy or thinking. You just play all your great cards and you're done. Of What's Left is you never want to be first. If you go out first, you get 0 points. You want to be second, or have as few cards as possible when someone does go out, and you get more points there. But if you're the one going out, then you have 0 cards, you don't get points. It's super unique. Oh, and the trick is you are forced to play if you have 5 cards or less. So if you're getting closer to the end and you can play, you have to play. This prevents people from just going down to 1 card and just refusing to play. Obviously, it would be very easy to not play all your cards in that case. But because you're forced to play, once you get close, you really have to find that perfect timing to just get right in there. And if you have 1 card, that's worth more points than if you have 2 cards. But if you have high cards, that's worth even more points as well. It's very easy to go play other cards, but a single 2, and then just be, hey, I have 1 card. No, that's not good enough. You need to end with a high card. It's such a clever concept, and it's such a clever way to make any hand viable, essentially, in a shedding game. So I really respect this game. All right, and that was my list. It looks like I've already been talking for 13 minutes, so that's a lot longer than I expected. I really hope people are listening this long. That's a lot. And just kind of me fumbling here, it's going to be 14 minutes. But I hope you enjoyed my list. You can find, again, the description that has the overall list of all the games. So the top 100, you'll see it. And if you want to try to make your own of games that aren't in the top 100, I'd love to see them. I'm always looking for games I missed. There are a ton of games. It's a shame when some really clever, unique, or just underappreciated games fall by the wayside because of the glut of games that come out. But I also understand it's hard to just keep up with all the games. That's why I made that video on how to play more games earlier. And yeah, that's the thing. So yeah, if you're interested in any of the games I mentioned, please check them out. Let me know what you thought of them. If I helped you find some new games to play, I'd love to hear about that. It's kind of why I do this. Well, this video at least. Most of mine are, yeah, if you know, you know. I guess I've rambled on enough. I'm going to end now. Thank you very much for listening this whole time. And I don't have an outro. Usually I just say thanks for playing along, but I messed that up. Well, thanks for playing along.